Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, again, we'll be talking about another defeat. Tottenham Hotspur 3, Chelsea 4. We're live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, on X and Switch. So please do get involved and let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan and what you have made of the season so far. And of course, today's defeat against Chelsea. Now, as I've just mentioned, the result, Spurs 3, Chelsea 4. Dominic Solanke put Spurs 1-0 up after 5 minutes. Dejan Kulusevski doubled Tottenham's lead after 11 minutes. Things were going awfully well after 11 minutes, 2-0 up. And then Jadon Sancho got one back in the 17th minute for Chelsea. At half-time, it was 2-1 Spurs. Cole Palmer scored a penalty for Chelsea in the 61st minute, making it 2-2. Fernandes then scored for Chelsea, putting them 3-2 up in the 73rd minute. Cole Palmer then making it 4-2 from the penalty spot again in the 84th minute. And Heung-min Son scoring in stoppage time, making the score Spurs 3, Chelsea 4. Now, as per usual, I've got three very special guests with me. Craig Dearman is back with us. Craig, how are you?
I'm all right. Yeah. It's I don't know how I feel, to be honest. A bit numb of it all. You kind of get used to it, and that's the worrying sign, isn't it? You could just, It's not a surprise anymore. The inconsistency. I expected us to lose today, but after 11 minutes, I thought I'd got that very wrong. I thought we looked very good, and we all know what happened, but. We go again, as they say.
We go again. I don't know whether to call this a podcast or another therapy session. We've been here many times before. We've got the legend Richard Whitehead, MBE, back with us. Rich, how are you, mate?
It's always a pleasure to be on here, Chris, and would encourage everybody to support Chris and his journey through the season with Spurs. I fear for Chris's mental health watching this every week. So please subscribe and support Chris because, mate, you do a great job and it is a pleasure for sure, as I said the other week. But look, it's not something that I'm surprised by at all. And obviously, those that don't know my background in professional sport, when you follow the same kind of routine, you generally get the same kind of results. And the data proves that as well as what you're watching. And today going 2-0 up, like Craig says, obviously changes the mood. But then when you're continually pressing that gamble button all the time, you're not going to win all the time. And that's my real kind of frustration with Ange and the team is that you go 2-0 up, then what do you do? Obviously, there's a lot of games still to go. You need to go back and actually have a bit of a reset and understand that you can't be gambling. Look at the weapons we've got up front. You've got like Johnson, you've got Son, you've got Solanke. You can hit teams on the break. You don't have to be pushing all the time because it was so vulnerable at the back. Proved it today. Obviously, there were a load of chances that they missed. We had some chances as well. I think the real frustration thing is it's so bad for Spurs fans watching because you know what's coming. And so do the other teams as well. They know that we're going to give them a chance. And whether you're 2 or 3-0 up, we're giving the opportunities chances to get back into the game instead of really closing them out. Yeah.
Also back with us is Terry Kim, all the way from New York. Terry, how are you?
Thanks again for having me on, Chris. I hope you guys are somewhat okay here. Craig, I think numb is the right word because it was somewhat expected. I wouldn't say I'm frustrated because we lost, because I think that was somewhat expected. I feel it's more of an exasperation, just seeing that we have elite ability, and you see that. You saw that in the first half. You saw that against Man City. You know that we have the elite ability to beat teams like this, to see the game through, to hold on against Fulham, to hold on against Bournemouth. But what's exasperating is that we don't have that elite mentality. Right? Like we can't lock in for 90 minutes. We never lock in. We always give the other team a chance to get back into it. We always have 2 or 3 or 4 mental breakdowns, and that's what separates us. It really does. That's what separates us from where we want to be. It is that elite mentality. that second half, I mean, we wilted after Basuma dived in for that penalty. You saw the team wilt. You know, the body language was off. You know, the captains weren't stepping up. They weren't encouraging the team. It's exasperating. It absolutely is.
Craig, before I come to you to get your thoughts on the game, let's hear from a good friend of mine and a guy that I spent the day with at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It is Chelsea fan Sean Wallace, of course, star of the chase. Sean, you're still in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. How are you? I'm sure you're very happy with the result today.
Yeah, ecstatic. I did expect a Chelsea victory today. Even when we went 2-0 down, I wasn't overly worried. I thought that Spurs had the chances to actually extend the lead, and they didn't take them. And as Terry said, in the second half, Spurs just completely capitulated. Chelsea took the game to them, and we were always in the game. When we pulled it back to 2-1, that's when I was really confident we could not only get back into the game, but actually win it. And I thought for 20 minutes in the second half, we were absolutely superb. Never lost the ball. Spurs went into panic mode instead of basically, fronting up and taking the game to them. And they gave away the ball, and we just punished them every single time. I thought the third goal was brilliant.
Sean, of course, you were on the podcast with me last night. You were very complimentary about Spurs, very complimentary about Ange Postecoglou. You're pretty confident that Ange can take Tottenham Hotspur forward?
I think he can take Tottenham forward. I think he can turn around. As I say, he's made himself a hostage to fortune by basically saying that I'm going to win a trophy in my second season. And, I think that's something which he shouldn't have said. But I still think that, you've got an important quarterfinal coming up in the Carabao Cup. I am confident that Spurs can win that because Manchester United are exactly setting the game alight in terms of their own style of play. And if the Spurs faithful get behind the team, I can really see them beating Man United and basically going on to eventually lifting that trophy. But they've got to show faith in this manager. He had a great start at the beginning of last season. Obviously, it fell apart when we beat you 4-1. And the devastating injuries that happened to Mickey van der Ven in that game and to James Maddison, I think he was out for about 3 months. And he's never really recovered. The one thing with Spurs, which must be infuriating, is that they are consistent with being inconsistent. And that must be the most frustrating thing as a Spurs fan. You played brilliantly against Manchester United when you took them to the sword. You battered Man City. You played really well against Aston Villa. Yet, second half here was pathetic. The game against Crystal Palace wasn't good enough. You lost at home to Ipswich. So it's the inconsistency which must be the frustrating element in relation to being a Spurs fan.
Sean.
How you doing, Richard? Good to see you again, mate.
I think he's frozen. Craig, do you have a question for Sean?
Hello, Sean. Lovely to meet you. Loving your work. And I'm glad you didn't say just another day at the office. No. So you say there you were quite confident about when Chelsea got that goal. How did you feel about before the game kicked off? Were you fairly confident you'd get a result today?
I really was. Chelsea are really beginning to click into gear. As I say, our Achilles heel is our back line. I'm not really too confident about the goalkeeper. And as I say, our Cucurella actually snipping for the 2 goals, which they took really well. Spurs, you can't. Solanke getting in front of Kovac was a brilliant opportunist goal, for a striker really in form. But again, he worked hard, pressing constantly. But if he's not getting the service, he's going to drift out of the game, and that's exactly what happened to him. So I still think Spurs have still got a lot to play for. And they've got to keep faith with Postecoglou at this particular stage. It'd be pointless changing it now again, because that would mean the 7th manager since 2019. And that means, again, another manager coming in, completely changing ideas. Again, a chance for a fund to support that manager. And there's got to be that stability in order to actually get the consistency.
Did you want to come in, Rich?
Yeah, how's it going, Sean?
Good to see you, Rich. Good to see you again,
I'm going to abuse you then, but obviously, for some reason, I think the Chelsea hoax came and froze my screen. So, but how was the stadium atmosphere today? A lot of teams come to the stadium actually say it's like the 12th man. And I think sometimes that can really affect the play on the field.
Listen, this is the best stadium in Europe. I love coming to this ground. But you see what happens with Spurs, the fans in particular. Yeah, they're loud and vociferous because Spurs are playing well for 20 minutes. Then they do childish things like throwing things on the pitch. I mean, that's just pathetic.
Yeah.
Just get behind the team. And by the time it got to 2-2, it was like I was in a library. And that's what we were singing. We're in a library. We're in a library. And they just completely melted, just like their team did. So they've really got to get behind the team.
For sure. I agree with you there. I think when I've been there and it's been rocking and the team's been like firing, it's so impressive. But then the fans need to take real responsibility. You can really lift the team. As an athlete, as you know myself,
Absolutely.
I know that when you've got that support, it really does uplift you and it gives you that extra 10%.
Yeah. It certainly does. But
Terry,
I had a great time with Chris today and his dad. We had a fantastic time. The podcast, as you quite rightly said, Richard, is the best podcast out there. And that's why, I love coming on it all the time. It's sensible chat when you with Chris. You know what I mean? He's not a sort of a partisan Spurs fan. He looks at it objectively, dispassionately, and that's why you can engage in a healthy and sensible conversation.
For sure.
Well, I don't know about we had a good time. You certainly did. Terry, lastly, have you got a question before he goes?
Great to meet you, Terry.
Just a quick question. So Sean, first of all, a pleasure to meet you.
And you too.
Second of all, just as objectively as possible, could you comment on what you thought about the refereeing today, specifically that Caicedo challenge?
He should have gone off. Yeah, we were surprised that he still stayed on. I was definitely surprised, and I think when you know that you've done really badly, like he did, he sort of feigned injury, pretended to limp away, and then the next thing you know, it was sort of waved away. That was definitely a sending off, and we took off what I thought was our best midfield player, Lavia, because he got a booking. But Lavia was superb today. He absolutely was, even for that first 45 minutes. I thought the best player on the pitch for Chelsea was Jadon Sancho. He took the game to them. He scored the important first goal, and he was a constant menace on that left-hand flank. Neto played really, really well as well. Really, especially in the second half, he really stepped up.
Sean, last question for you. If you had to predict where Spurs and Chelsea will finish at the end of the season, what are you going to go for?
Chelsea 3rd, Spurs 7th.
Okay, you've been a great guest. And
cheers, mate.
Great company
Stay
today.
Have a nice Christmas, guys. I really will be rooting for you in the quarterfinals. So let's get behind the team.
Thank you so much,
mate.
Sean, love it, mate.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's defeat against Chelsea.
Do you know what? I think we could play any podcast that we've lost in this season and just replay it, because it's kind of the same things over and over again, isn't it? It's so many of the same situations, so many of the same moments in games where, it's almost identical to Brighton, isn't it? In some ways, it's just, I said I wasn't going to use this word, but the frustration is just always there, isn't it? It's just that inconsistency. So, I mean, there are certain things that players did today that you can't odds. And I found myself actually agreeing with Paul Merson on Sky, and that, with the 2 penalties, especially the Sarr one. I mean, what was he doing? Even Bissouma, as soon as he was coming over, you just knew what was going to happen. You see him charging over, sliding in. It's just schoolboy stuff. It really is. But when you go 2 goals up, you should never really. I've always thought, I know it can happen, but if you go 2 goals up, especially at home, you shouldn't be losing games. But I was never ever comfortable when we were 2-0 up today. I don't think anybody could probably put their hand on their heart and say they were comfortable at us 2-0. We would have had to have been 5-0 up for me to be confident that we go on to win that game. And even then, if you're a Spurs fan, you're not confident till something like the 90th minute. So.
What is it, Craig? What is it about Tottenham Hotspur? Because you could go back many years. Remember being 3-0 up at half-time against Manchester United, and Alex Ferguson went in and said it's Tottenham, and then we lose 5-3. How many goals is a comfortable cushion for this team? And you've changed every single player. You've changed the managers a number of times. What is it about the mentality of not going on to win matches when you're 2 goals up?
I genuinely don't know. I mean, I've racked my brains over the years, because you're right. I remember that was what, 2004, something like that, 2005, that game. And 3-0 up. I remember that was back in the days when I was playing, so it was a long time ago. And one of the players I was playing with checked his phone at half time and said, "Oh, Spurs are 3-0 up." But I remember that feeling, oh, we'll go on to lose that because it's what we do. That was even back then. That was 20 odd years ago. And Richard's probably the best one to talk about this more than me. And I know I've been on podcasts before where Richard's mentioned it many times. It's the mentality. It's the strength of your mental game as well as your physical game. It's the belief. Do these players, do these players believe in their teammates? Do they believe in the system? Do they believe in this way of playing? I don't know, but how is that the same over 20 odd years? As you say, it's been endemic in this club. Is there something in this club that's been around for 20 odd years? Yeah, there is. We know what it is. I mean, Richard, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, am I misquoting you there?
No, for sure. I think obviously when you look at the stadium and the academy and the infrastructure itself, it's world class, as everybody says that. It's fantastic, but on the field of play, it's inconsistent. I think as you see the players training, warming up, as you see them kind of coming onto the pitch, again, very inconsistent. I think we need to have a lot more investment in the team. I think we need to have you look at the squad at the moment and it's depleted, and why is that? And taking massive risks on 2 of our best defenders playing today when that shouldn't be the case. You're not only risking further injury, you're risking the careers of the individuals. Now somebody's actually taken the decision there, that must be a medical decision or the manager. That shouldn't happen. If those players aren't going to be able to compete at the highest level and not incur further injury to the actual injury that's happened, or not be fit enough. And yes, further injuries or different injuries happen, but that might be because of them not being fully fit. That mentality of kind of having to take a risk just to compete, I think that's not a mentality you need in a club. And people having to play when they're injured, like Sonny's said it last season, that he'd had to play through injury. And for me, the mentality of the club at the moment it's something that I think us as fans are part of a little bit as well. We are part of, because we need to be that 12th man. We need to support the team through the tough times, through not only winning but also kind of having the frustrating times now. And you look at the comments and people like throwing abusive messages at managers. That does not help. That does not help at all. You thinking that you're able to abuse a manager or throw those comments, how is that going to help the team be successful? You need to have a solution for these problems. And yes, we talked about maybe change of ownership, change of manager, change of players. Mentality needs to be a winning mentality. And that mentality at the moment isn't really there with the club, isn't there with the players. And for me, you look at the players man for man, Spurs and Chelsea, you can see a complete difference. You can see a self-belief in those players that we haven't got on the pitch. When we step on that pitch, what kind of Tottenham's going to turn up? I also think that some of the players are having to do more than they should in certain situations, which is causing like mistakes and bad challenges. And then there's other players that really aren't stepping up to the plate. We haven't got the players that we need. That's clear. We need to have world-class players. We need to have a manager like Ange that really does believe in it, but also we need to have a plan B. I really do think that, I said it from the start of the season, we need to have plan B. And the mentality needs to be that gold standard, and we definitely haven't got that at the moment.
Are you still fully behind Ange Postecoglou, Rich? Because I know we'll talk a little bit more about Ange Postecoglou. Were you surprised by him confronting the fans on Thursday and the abuse that he was receiving on Thursday evening against Bournemouth?
I think it's just tough, isn't it? It's a real tough kind of question that you asked about being behind the manager. It's like, obviously, I think some of his interviews are very confusing. I just get a little bit confused by what he's saying around, like, I saw the interview after the match, and he's saying we played well, even though we conceded 4 goals. I'm like, for me, it's like you can win games and not play well. Do you know what I mean? It's like to concede 4 and say you played well. I kind of don't think we did. I think we made far too many mistakes. As a team, you can't let in 4 goals and play well. I don't. Bits of moments. We had good areas of the game where we actually went 2-0 up. Yeah, what we're going to do now? And I think that's where he needs to be stepping up, and he needs to be kind of going, look, now we're going to change it a little bit. We're going to kind of consolidate. We're going to really build into the game. We're going to show some real steel. And he had an opportunity today when we were 2-0 up, didn't take that. And I think the manager is starting to lose not just a few of the fans, a lot of the fans, because of his stubbornness not to change.
What I find frustrating at the moment, and very sad actually, is the fact that not only are the fans getting on the back of Ange Postecoglou, they're getting on the back of some of the players. Of course, they're calling for a board change, but most importantly, they're getting on at one another. You know, I was filming the players coming off the pitch, as I do every single game, and right next to me were 2 fans having a huge argument. And, you know, people just aren't happy with anyone at the moment. Everyone just seems to be arguing. It just seemed like an absolute mess. And I'm with you, Craig. I just feel so, you know, here we go again. So frustrated. Ange Postecoglou, in his post-match press conference, he has just said, when I look at today's performance, I don't see them lacking confidence or belief. It's probably the other way. Both penalties we conceded were born out of desperation. I think they're desperate to turn our season around and are really disappointed how it has gone. When you're in that mood, you kind of lose that composure and discipline that you need. It is not like we're hanging on in games. We wouldn't play like that today if we were lacking belief and confidence. When you get into the situation that we are in, there is also a sense of desperation from the players, and I thought that cost us today. Terry, what's your reaction to Angie's comments there? And also, let's get your thoughts on the game today, losing 4-3 against Chelsea, because I'm a little bit with Richard here. You know, when you and Craig for that matter, when you're 2-0 up, you know, the in-game management, when you're 2-0 up, surely, you know, at a home game, you're 2-0 up against a very good side. You know, you have to tweak things here and there, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I put it fully on Ange. I think a lot of it, again, comes down to that player mentality again. I just want to come back really quickly. Craig, you said it seems like a recurring theme over the last 20 years or so here. That to me is so curious. I don't understand. Even if we look at our squad now versus even just 4 years ago or so, it's almost a completely different squad. Yet we had the same issues, that same soft underbelly, that same kind of wilting under pressure. I don't understand what that is. I thought that was being addressed with the types of players that Ange is bringing in, because he really focuses on character and kind of team spirit, and it doesn't seem to matter who we bring in. It seems to happen again and again, and I wonder. I just wonder why that is. I mean, we saw that again and again today. I got to tell you, just supporting Tottenham feels like being in an abusive relationship. They'll give you just a little bit of hope, you know, like the start of today's game, and then they'll just come back and just punch you in the face, and you're like, where did this come from? And then you come back the next week and you have a little bit of hope, and then you get punched in the face again.
Yeah,
I worry for all of our mental health, to be honest. Going forward, it's even knowing what's coming, yet to deal with it, the highs and the lows, and the extreme highs and the extreme lows. It's really difficult to deal with. I'm really dismayed to hear about the fans bickering with each other. I mean, like we see it a lot online, but hearing that that's happening at the stadium as well. I thought the scenes at the end of Bournemouth were awful, especially when I heard about kind of what was being said towards Ange. I completely understand the frustration of going down there in poor weather and paying your money for the ticket. I think calling someone personal names, I can't think of anyone that deserves that. So to me, that's crossing the line. I honestly didn't even like seeing all the crumpled up paper being thrown today. Like that to me crosses the line of sportsmanship as well. But yeah, sorry, Craig. Sure.
Yeah, sorry. I think you're buffering a bit because your mouth's a bit out of sync with your but do you find that you saying about the throwing things? Obviously, America, totally different sports, and I get that. But would you get that in NFL? Would you get that in baseball? Would you get that abuse, so to speak, of managers in the sports over there, or is it just seems to be just happens in football? Because it certainly doesn't happen in rugby that I've seen whenever I watch rugby, which is rare.
Not to the extent that you get here. I mean, you don't. I think what's different is you rarely get the players going around after the game and applauding the fans and going up to them. The stadiums, especially in the NFL, tend to be a lot bigger too, so it isn't as close. The kind of the personal attacks and the personal abuse, that seems pretty particular to football, to be honest. And not just in England, but I mean, well, like you see that in Italy, you see that in France. It's the level of passion, I think, with football is to another extreme, way more than you see with any American sports.
Let's have a look at the other results in the Premier League today. Fulham 1, Arsenal 1, Ipswich 1, Bournemouth 2, Leicester 2, Brighton 2, and of course Spurs 3, Chelsea 4. After Tottenham's result, we are 11th in the Premier League table, 20 points from the opening 15 games. We're nearly halfway into the Premier League season. We have a goal difference of plus 12. We are now 7 points away from the top 4. Craig, does that league position worry you at the moment?
A little bit concerned about our results and the fact we're up and down, because we're still not a million miles away from it. I think that league's still tight. I think things are going to change, and you have opportunities to climb that table very, very quickly if you string some results together. But that's the word, if you string results together, and we don't look like we're going to do that anytime again soon. That worries me. I think the table's not a fledgling table, but like I say, like you said there, it's nearly halfway through. But this Christmas period, I think is almost well, it's an important period for the club. I mean, we've got the Manchester United fixture soon, which is I think, you know, if we can somehow win a cup, if he can win the Carabao Cup, you could say it papers over the cracks, but it keeps you going, and it perhaps gives you a bit of belief. I do fear if we go out against Manchester United, what the feelings around the club with the fan base are going to be like. Because at the moment, like you say, we've discussed, it's pretty toxic, and there's a lot of frustration in the fan base at the moment, which I get. And I think that doesn't just come from this season. It comes from years and years of the fans seeing exactly the same things that we've been talking about. I think people have just had enough. Now, everybody's got their own ideas about what the problems are. I've got my own opinions. We've discussed this millions of times on here, Chris, haven't we? Yeah. But it's something that needs to be addressed and gotten right, because there's many things not right in this club, but it can't go on like this. And I'm still behind Ange. The fan base seems to be fairly split on that. But what I would ask anybody who wants Ange out is, what's the alternative? Who are you going to bring in? How is it going to change? How is it going to change things if we get another manager in? Because for me, I've been here before. This isn't my first rodeo, as I'm sure many people watching this stream isn't. What is it? That's fine if you want to bring a new manager in, but who do you bring in, and what is that going to achieve? Are we going to get the same problems, but we're just starting all over again with a squad built for about 3 managers?
I can't see what it's going to achieve by changing the manager.
No, exactly. It won't achieve anything. But I'd like to say, we've all been here before. Who is out there anyway? Who is out there that you want to bring in? You could throw in Thomas Frank. You could throw in Nagelsmann. I mean, you could say, some people would say, I'll go and pay Poch off his USA contract, get him back. they're not the solutions at the moment. They are not the solutions. We're not even halfway probably for a rebuild. There's going to be rocky times, and I know it's incredibly frustrating, but you've got to kind of get towards the end of a rebuild before you assess it. And there is going to be more painful results like this. There are going to be loads of more painful results like this. Yeah. But you've got to give it time. And I'm just as frustrated as everybody else, believe me. But if you step outside it, you've got to let the rebuild take place. And as long as we're not getting relegated or anything like that, and it's not that bad, then you've got to stick with it. It does, in my opinion, you've got to do it. But we are going to go through some really, really tough times. But as I think it was Sean or Terry said, I can't remember who said it, but you know, getting on Angie's back, I thought that was I dismay at people. I get the frustration, but shouting personal things at the manager like that, it doesn't help at all. It really doesn't. We should try and get behind Ange as much as we can, and things will change. Like Richard said, if you get behind the manager and show them and the players and just show, look, we believe in you. As long as we can see you're trying, as long as we can see you're doing your best and giving everything for that badge, leaving everything out on that pitch, and see what you're trying to do, then the fans, I'm sure, would be behind them. But I think it's born from years and years and years and years of frustration and not winning and getting to cup finals and not winning, big players not turning up in big games. It's just a combination of everything for the fan base. And unfortunately, as we all know, there's no quick fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at the match facts and stats here. Spurs had 38.2% of the ball to Chelsea's 61.8%. Shots, Spurs had 13 to Chelsea's 17. Shots on target, Spurs had 5 to Chelsea's 8. Shots off target, Spurs had 5 to Chelsea's 4. Block shots, Spurs had 3 to Chelsea's 5. Total touches in the box, Spurs had 26 to Chelsea's 46. Goalkeeper saves, Spurs 4, Chelsea 2. Fouls, Spurs 17, Chelsea 11. And corners, Spurs had 5 to Chelsea's 10. Richard, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11 today, because there was 4 changes. Van der Ven, surprisingly. Romero, that was expected. Son and Porro coming in for Dragushin, Davis, Maddison and Gray. So the starting 11 was as follows: Forster, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Kulusevski, Basuma, Sarr, Johnson, Solanke and Son. And the subs today: Austin, Bergvall, Spence, Dragushin, Gray, Lancashire, Maddison, Reguilon and Timo Werner. I'm going to ask you that obvious question, Richard. Were you surprised to see that starting 11, particularly Van der Ven? I don't think anyone expected that one.
No, I think he rolled the dice there a little bit, didn't he? And obviously because Davis is out as well, it's he didn't feel like he could rely on the other centre-backs to start. Obviously fully fit, 2 centre-backs, obviously guaranteed starters, but I think it really showed how kind of, yes, it's like for the manager who's going, well, actually, it's really important after a poor performance in midweek to put the big guns out and even not fully fit. I just think it's a really dangerous thing to do, to throw the dice on 2 of your best players, and it could come back to bite him in forthcoming games. I was definitely surprised for sure. And I think maybe if you're going to put Romero in, obviously,
I think this podcast is going to be Spursy like the performance today. With all Terry, let's come to you. If you've got an internet connection right now, what did you make of the starting 11 today?
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised to see both Romero and Van de Ven in there. I know there was an outside chance with Romero. It shows that Ange is a little bit sneakier than we think. He didn't mention anything about Van de Ven coming back this quickly. I'll be honest with you. I kind of wanted to see Werner starting ahead of Son, given his form recently. I think of that one run.
Is it really that bad, Terry, that we've now got a guest on the podcast saying we want Timo Werner starting ahead of our captain Heung-min Son? Is it that bad?
Yeah, it really is that bad. It really is that bad. I mean, we can come on Son like later. I almost feel like he's becoming more of a liability to the team than he is an asset. I feel like Son's been kind of reduced to someone who we rely on for kind of magical moments or moments of genius. And I think we saw a couple of those today. I think that cross in that Papa Sarr hit against against the post was a beautiful cross. But if he's not going to finish those chances that the old Son would finish 10 times out of 10, I mean, especially that one in the second half, that one in the first half, the one where he had Brennan Johnson coming in on the right and he could have squared it to him, but he cut in and shot. You know that Werner would have crossed that in with his left foot to Brennan Johnson. Those are really key moments, right? And that especially that one in the first half, that would have made the game 3-1 and a lot more comfortable. I can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of Spurs fans who are Spurs fans because of Son, and I think he's coming to the end of his life here. I do think he's becoming more of a liability than an asset.
I saw in the comments it says I wouldn't drop the tea lady for Werner. It made me laugh. I disagree a little bit with Terry. I'm not a massive fan of Werner. As everybody knows, I've been on this podcast. I think he's got pillow feet. He doesn't shoot when he should. If the ball comes to him and he has to kind of touch it and it goes in the back of the net, it's all pot luck. I'm not a massive fan. I think he's quick. He offers something to the team if needed, but I just don't think I think he's clinical in certain games, but not enough for me. I think Sonny.
It's happened again. It's happened again. That's exactly what the Chelsea fans were singing today. It's happened again. Craig, let's come to you. Craig, what positives would you take out today?
I wish you'd given me a bit of warning before asking me a question like that. So, look, we flew out the blocks. We flew out the blocks and we started well. So he's still in there somewhere. It's just what we do after we go 2-0 up is concerning. Actually, a positive for me, I thought Fraser Forster played very well, especially in the first half. I thought he made a couple of really good saves, some very good reactionary saves. And in the second half, I thought he really done well. And he was one of the players, obviously, when we lost Vicario, that I was most concerned about. And yet he stepped up. He really has stepped up and shown that he's not a bad goalkeeper, that people are sort of writing him off. So he was pretty good. He was pretty good. So I would say that is a positive. Obviously, originally getting Romero and Van der Ven back was a positive. I think from what Anne just said, Mickey Van der Ven just felt a bit of tightness in his hamstring. So that's okay. Hopefully, Romero they got a C on, but Johnson apparently wasn't injured. He just felt unwell, so he had to come off because he was feeling unwell rather than injured. Which I thought I saw him limping a bit. So hopefully that's a positive that if he's just unwell. But apart from that, Chris, I don't think there was loads of positives to take out of today. I thought the subs were a bit late again. I thought he could have changed things. I still can't understand why Jed Spence isn't getting a run out. I think he would have been a good option a bit further up the pitch, to be honest, knowing what a good runner he is. But I'm not the manager. So
there was one point. Yeah. There was one point when Fernandez kind of just danced through like Udogie, and I just thought, like, Eve, somebody needs to be stronger in kind of getting to the players. Like one thing that moment when Cole Palmer crossed the ball in, that summed up the game for me, really. Like I think our wide players were watching in awe of the Chelsea players, and it just like I was kind of going, why are you not clattering him at least? If you can't,
Rich, I've said that all day. When I was with Sean Wallace all day today, I said the one thing that I want to see from Tottenham players today, in particular, a London derby against a team like Chelsea, I want to see aggression. I want to see those players clattering into players to know that they are there. Where is the aggression? I feel like we're so nice sometimes. It goes back to what Jose Mourinho said about, we're too nice against teams. Where is the aggression?
And then when we in the box, we have those stupid moments where we're flying in on challenges, which are reckless. I definitely agree with you. I think when you're 2-0 up and you kind of you've got that lead, why are you not kind of showing the actual other team that's it now, we're here to stay? But the better players from Chelsea never felt threatened, and in that midfield as well, I think we were so vulnerable. In the midfield, you can tell, even 2-1 down, you could tell they were coming back into the game because they were using their moments a lot better than we were. And for me, like you say, far too nice off the ball, like giving Chelsea the actual space, not even having to work for it. And then when the ball's wide, don't let them cross the ball in. Come on.
And Richard, I think aggressiveness-wise, though, even that's really inconsistent. I mean, you use Udogie as an example. I thought Udogie defensively in the first half was actually really strong. But then you see him and other players will go through these inconsistent patches where they're really aggressive sometimes, and then they're really passive at other times. Like I don't understand why they can't lock in just for 90 minutes. For 90 minutes, just lock in, get through the game. It's just there's all these mental lapses. It's not just with the Udogie. Like you saw that with all the players there, and it happens again and again and again. Yeah.
On the again, he turned away for the Fernandes goal, and I'm like going, why are you doing that? What are you protecting in that moment?
Yeah. Right.
Terry, and Postecoglou doesn't seem to be a fan of being aggressive, and certainly with the shithousery, for a better word, that other teams seem to use against Spurs so often.
Yeah, it's I'm not a fan of him not being a fan of that. I think shithousery. I think the dark arts. I think anything that can give you a 1% better chance in a game could mean the difference between a win and a loss. It doesn't. I found it pretty bemusing this past week that people are making fun of Arsenal for only scoring on corners and set pieces. I would be delighted if that was us. It's
who cares how you score?
Who cares how you score? Like I wouldn't be embarrassed by that. They work on the littlest, you can see how much time they spend on set pieces. All of the shithousery, all of the dark arts. If that riles up just one player, if that gets just one yellow card, if that gets just one referee to make a different call sometime down the line, all of that adds up. It makes such a big difference in the game. If that's what it's going to take to win a game in the Premier League, then we have to partake in that. I understand him sticking by his principles, but wouldn't he rather win the game, right, than lose one just by the slimmest of margins just because of some moral refusal to do something small?
Heung-min Son, in a post-match interview, he's just said, we all care about where we are right now and the results. We do really care about this club. Everyone is working really hard to get it right. It is tough. We have to stick together. Craig, let's come to you. Let's talk about the opening goal. We get onto the match instance. So after 5 minutes, Brennan Johnson, what a fantastic cross from him. It was the perfect start from Tottenham Hotspur, by the way. What a cross from Johnson. Solanke getting before the defender and before the goalkeeper, making it 1-0. A fantastic cross, fantastic finish. Craig, talk us through it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a slip there, wasn't it? And just gifted the ball to Spurs. But it's these moments where you have to be clinical and you have to put the balls in the right positions to provide the strikers with the chance to score. And we did it perfectly. Solanke got across his defender. Great opening 5 minutes, as you say, really fast start from Spurs, and everything about it was right. The technique, the players running into the positions they should have been running into, and just a great finish overall. So a fantastic start from Tottenham, and to be honest, not what I expected, but it was really, really good to see. I was like, wow, this is a really good start from Spurs, but wasn't getting carried away because we've been here before. But certainly a good, really good positive start to the game. Yeah. Hello.
Are you guys still there?
Hello.
It's still Chris there.
It's Chris.
Sorry,
What's
I was
happening?
on. Richard, let's come to you. Let's talk about Tottenham's second goal after 11 minutes because Pedro Porro to Dejan Kulusevski. It's pretty obvious that Dejan Kulusevski has been our player of the season so far. What a fantastic finish from him! And how are you feeling at that point, going 2-0 up after 11 minutes? What a fantastic start from Spurs.
Yeah, and the expectation is that he's putting that in the corner as well. And obviously, he's shown that he can actually use both corners. Obviously, slipped it in and showed that obviously coming off that side, his strength, also kind of really waiting for that opportunity and then finishing it. Kulusevski's obviously showed a lot of strength on the ball in this season. He's obviously done a lot of work in the gym, and also he's been working really tirelessly. You can tell on his finishing as he's been more consistent with that. I think at that stage, I was thinking now it's time to really change the dial regarding obviously the Spurs-Chelsea form book. And it was something that I was thinking in the back of my head, saying, actually, if we're now going to prove that we're a team that can beat the likes of Man City, can we do that against Chelsea? And at that point, very positive. But I think obviously it's about the next 15 minutes, trying to keep them out and trying to limit those chances. They definitely did have chances within those minutes after our second goal. A couple of opportunities for Cole Palmer, etc. But after 2-0, it was apparent that they were really going to try and push on, and just really disappointing for the next 20 minutes, really, because I think they started to kind of get a lot more ball, and obviously you saw by the possession stats, and towards the end of this first half and into the second half, they really did dominate that midfield, and I think that's something that Ange could have done, actually put somebody to drop into that midfield to kind of have more numbers around there, because after they scored their first, we were really overrunning the middle of the pitch.
There was a great opportunity though, Rich, a couple of minutes later in the 13th minute, Udogie, he shot wide. If that would have gone in, wow, could it have been different?
Yeah, it could have been as well. I know we've had lots of those could have been moments, haven't we?
Yes.
And that's a real problem. We're trying to hang on to those moments, what ifs, and we take that away. But the positive is we're at that point we're making those opportunities, but then not being as clinical as we could be. But obviously the first couple of goals going in showed that we can be aggressive within the moment at the start of the games, because obviously we've done a lot of these shows where Spurs have conceded first. So that was great that we kind of took the game to them. But I don't think we had the mentality to continue that, or at least go 2-0 now, let's hold it and kind of negate some of the opportunities that Chelsea had. Because, to be honest, I'd have rather at 2-0 kind of actually, not necessarily part the bus, but kind of gone, actually, where are those gaps that Chelsea is starting to exploit? Kind of drop somebody in there, help that midfield out, and then build and utilise that speed on the obviously the wings, and obviously the work rates Solanke had been doing to obviously boss those centre backs, especially in that first half, was immense. And he I think was kind of really strong with the centre backs.
Am I getting the feeling then, Rich, that you are aiming criticism at Ange Postecoglou, the in-game management of being 2-0 up and not being more defensive at that point?
But I think personally, it's like you're on a tightrope, aren't you, as a Spurs fan with the games? Obviously, he's the manager, but from my point of view, from my personal point of view, I just think that I find it very kind of five-a-side, and eventually you're gonna concede. We played fantastic against City, but they had chances.
Yeah.
Did we play fantastic in that first half? I think we made use of our opportunities, but we still was very vulnerable in that first 20, 25 minutes. Can you play 90 minutes like that? I don't think you can in the Premier League, and that's the that my criticism would be when you're going into those 2-0 at home with the crowd behind you, wouldn't it be better to actually go, right, now you've got to come and take away our 2-goal lead instead of us overcommit and then them kind of utilising the spaces that become available?
Rich, do you know what I think we need? I really do think we need, and today's highlight for me more than ever, is a number 6 that stays in position and knows the role, and that is his key role. Because we haven't got one. We haven't got one. That monster number 6, that like a Rodri that can control the game. You see how much Man City have been affected by the loss of Rodri, and it shows he's key to the whole way they play. And I think a CDM is what the kids call it. A defensive midfielder who controls and is the orchestrator of any game. I think we need a player like that in this system, but a massive player that can control everything. And I think the system would work a hell of a lot better. I really do.
For sure. And obviously we've lost Benzema for an amount of time, and I think he's a player that could adapt into that role as somebody that is strong on the ball. He's also somebody that you could rely on to stay in a position like that before you go out and get a number 6. Obviously, being taken out of the team for so long, and somebody did say in the comments about obviously that Enzo Fernandez had a very similar incident that he didn't get obviously penalised as much as Bentancur for. So there's a bit of double standards there, and for me, when you look at the team, I don't know. I just kind of, even when you put the team up, then Chris, I was like going, for me, like it looks a little bit weak in that midfield, and definitely teams would go, actually, what are we going to do? How are we going to overrun Spurs? Yeah. Let's put those numbers in midfield. Let's control it there, and let's utilise that. We know we're going to get the opportunities. It's not about being better. It's knowing that we're going to get the opportunities. Because we're going to, and I think that's what Chelsea did well today.
Rich, sorry, Terry. Go on.
Yeah, can I just comment on that? Craig, I 100% agree with you on the center defensive midfielder. I honestly feel like that's been our most inconsistent and not weakest spot, but most vulnerable spot all year. As good as Bentancur is, I don't think he's consistent week in and week out. Basuma's more off than he is on. In this January transfer window, if there's one player that I would like to sign, it would be that center defensive midfielder. And the two people that I can think of just off the top of my head who are kind of these all-action, really good, aggressive players would be either Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace, or Ederson from Atalanta. Every time you see these guys, they have just this really, really strong spine, a good consistency, really, really consistent in tackling. And I think that having someone like that would bring so much more stability week in and week out in these tough moments. Richard, when you were talking about just how open we were, especially out of possession in that first half, and Chelsea had more than 2/3 of the possession. I mean, it felt like they could score almost at any time they were going down the field. Someone just to stop that momentum. I mean, look at Caicedo on the other side. I think he kind of toes the line between of aggression and kind of going over the line. But it's such a strong spine that's back there. Him and Lavia were fantastic today. They were really, really, really good.
Terry, after 15 minutes, Spurs were forced into a change. Romero going off, Dragusin coming on. Was Romero drafted back into the team too early, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it sure seems like that. I mean, it sure seems like that with Van de Ven as well. The concern is that it looks like it was a thigh injury, so it's not the toe. So the American commentators here were talking about, these kind of secondary injuries that can happen when you're worried about recovering from whatever the injury was that kept you out. I'm wondering if that's the case. I mean, it certainly looked like he tried to carry on. The look on his face, the body language afterwards with his shirt over his head, that's really, really concerning, especially with Davies being out. and we conceded that Jadon Sancho go pretty close, pretty soon after he went out.
Yeah.
Not saying that it was Dragusin's fault. I wonder if Romero, if he had been in that position, if he would have stepped up to knock him a little bit off course. I wonder if that goal would have happened there. More concerning, of course, is just what does this mean? Is this another 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks? Like, given how thin we already are, seeing Archie Gray back there doesn't really give us a lot of confidence, you know. Nor should it. I mean, that's not supposed to be his position. If Ben Davies was still there, it wouldn't feel like as big of a loss. But that seemed like a big risk that might come back to bite us. For a 14-minute cameo, was that really worth it? No, it really wasn't.
Craig, let's come to you. Talking about Romero going off for Dragusin. Romero was he didn't even make the tunnel at that point, by the way. He actually turned round and looked absolutely furious that we conceded that goal against Chelsea. Of course, Jadon Sancho scoring. What did you make of the goal?
It did just all-round bad defending, I think, to be honest with you. Dragusin obviously just totally cold into the game. You could blame Porro as well, was out of position, but it is just sloppy, absolutely sloppy. Forster not at fault for that. You can't blame Forster for that. It was right in the corner. Great strike, to be fair. But seeing Romero go off and like some people have commented in the comments there, it was kind of due to him doing a sort of Cruyff turn back heel. Seemed to injure himself doing that. So, and it wasn't the toe injury, it was a completely different injury. And there's certain element to think that we've been so unlucky with injuries last season and this season. But is that the way we train? I've said before, is it the way we train? Is the training sessions too hard? All these hamstrings? Is it the way we play in games that these two Tottenham players? I mean, that was just 15 minutes into the game. That looked like a bit of a freak sort of injury for Romero, but it's just bloody bad luck. That is, because I think in those first 15 minutes, I don't know about you, when I saw our regular back four, I was a bit more confident. I thought, you know, you can see why Romero and Van der Ven certainly are our first choice pairing. We just play better with them in the team as a rule. Yeah. Even though Davies and Dragusin have played pretty well as substitutes. So, but again, I still come back to it, and I see a lot of people agree with me in the comments when I said about the centre defensive midfielder. Goes on what Terry was saying as well. If you have that player in there, like Højbjerg, we never really replaced Højbjerg, did we? We bought Archie Graham, but he's an 18-year-old. He's not really ready to probably play that position or play with the command you need to in that position. It needs an experienced head in there, somebody who knows what they're doing. So, and that's, I think, why we lose possession and sometimes teams play through our midfield, because we haven't got that stability in there. And I think if you had somebody in there who could do that job, then it would stop a lot of this. It would stop a lot of these through balls.
Does Ange want that though, Craig? Because I think every guest on the podcast throughout the summer transfer window, we all said the same. It's
weird, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, but in this system, you have to have a defensive midfielder. The system dictates you need a defensive midfielder. And we all know that. You can't have three attacking midfielders because that wouldn't work. So you say Bentancur can play there. Yeah, he's probably the best out of the three that have played there, because I don't think Sarr has it in his locker to play that role. He's more box to box. Bissouma, form's just dropped off a cliff. I don't trust Bissouma on the pitch when he's out there. So we lost Bentancur obviously for 7 games, and he was the one that was playing the best. But for me, we need to bring in somebody that could do that role. And yeah, Højbjerg, absolutely, he would be invaluable right now. And he got a lot of stick. He did get a lot of stick, but remember how he played when Ange brought him on.
It's interesting, Craig, isn't it? I don't know whether you watched the embargoed press conference from Ange Postecoglou yesterday, where he was asked about, you know, getting or offloading a number of experienced players and then bringing in a number of young players. He said, well, we can't have a rebuild if you're replacing a 28-year-old with a 28-year-old. We've replaced 28-year-olds with 18-year-old younger players. But then he said at the same time that, you know, these guys aren't experienced. So what do you want as a Spurs fan? Do you want the whole rebuild and it's going to take time, or do you want the players brought in now? Because, you know, some people seem pretty impatient. They're not ready to wait for this rebuild and go through some tough times.
Yeah, and that's where I do disagree with Ange slightly, because it's a slight contradiction of what he said, because I get what he's saying about bringing in new players for the rebuild, but if you're bringing in new players, they don't necessarily have to be 18-year-olds. You can still do a rebuild with a 24, 25-year-old. You know, that's why I don't agree. He's almost saying you can't. Yeah, we brought in these players, but they're not ready yet. Well, you've got to play somebody in that role. You know, you can't say on one hand I want 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds for the rebuild. Absolutely, I get that, but you still need players to play on the pitch now.
Yeah,
there's still games going on now, so
you need to have light for light players, don't you, as well, Craig?
You do.
People that come in off the bench or elevate the performance, and that's what we're not getting. I've said this a few times, that when the substitutes come on, they're meant to be impactful. They're meant to come on and have an impact. And I think so many times when the substitutes have come on either too late or just come on and it's just like just getting into position and kind of, it's like, come on, guys, like that. Lift it, elevate the performance, like make an impact, whether it's emotionally or physically, and that's not what's really not happened. And I just feel you look on the bench now, and it's very poor. And even today, the substitutes came on and weren't really at it. Come on, just get on the. Don't be disappointed. You're on the bench. Like when you come on the pitch, make that impact. And we didn't see that. We don't see that.
Can I ask you, Rich, as a professional athlete, are you surprised by so early on in the season, even after 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season, so many fans, so many pundits are saying, or were saying, how the Spurs players looked absolutely shattered at that stage of the season? Are you surprised by that?
Well, obviously, the work that they're doing within their training sessions is taking it out on the players physically. And I think the way that, what I've noticed, especially from Ange's first season, that how he plays, he needs to have a squad that's able to cope with that workload. And when I mean the squad, that to have that kind of performance level, you might have to have more numbers because of those increased injuries. And we've seen that. We saw that last season. We see it this season. There's no coincidence there. But also, you shouldn't be taking the risk that we've obviously had to take today just to be competitive. That's not right for the health of the players. It's also not right for the sustainable impact on the results moving forwards. You see that, but because he's had to take that risk today, that shows how he doesn't trust what else he's got in the squad. And that's a real frustration. So these things in the market need to be addressed for sure. But there was definitely areas, like even that Sancho goal that we were just talking about then, point of contact. You need to get out and stop that. How far did he actually move with the ball before he had the shot? That needs to be stopped out there. You need to be like either at least pressing him, at least kind of making sure it's difficult for him to come inside and have that shot. There were so many opportunities. You look at the goals. You look at those opportunities where the player was moving with the ball for 5 or 10 yards without any pressure. And that's that mentality that we've all talked about getting in there hard, actually making things difficult. And then when they've got the opportunities, making yourself big enough that they're going to have to go through you or round you to actually score that goal.
Rich, let's stay with you. After 24 minutes, it was 2-1 at this point. Tottenham on the attack. Almost a trademark Heung-min Son top corner goal. Of course, it went just over the bar. A couple of inches lower, we'd all be sitting here saying, Son's back, world-class Son. But he does seem to be the scapegoat a lot of the times, I believe. When we lose a game, everyone starts blaming Heung-min Son, saying he's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. What did you make of his performance today, and what have you made of him overall this season?
Look, I think he's been put under too much pressure. Obviously, as a captain, he obviously has embraced that role. He is a leader. He's a leader by performance. Is he the same player 3 years ago? Probably not. I think he's getting those opportunities. he's maybe slightly different player now. Those one-on-ones that he used to have, where he was kind of running through players and then putting it in the corner. Is that the Son that we've got now? Maybe not, or maybe you might have one of those runs per game. But as part of the Ange system, those front three are having to do so much running, having to do so much work anyway, to then have that composure to take those opportunities. As an aging player, that might be taking something away from his game. That's what I feel. But again, some of these moments, like he had one against Man City where obviously it was just tipped over. I think he's due a game where he does get 2 or 3 where they go in the top corner. But we had moments today, didn't we? And I think that's what we need to understand, that we had moments today, but we still got some real issues defensively. But also, like I said earlier, running this tightrope game where it's like back and forth, eventually the other team's going to punish us. And that's what's happened.
Terry, let's come to you. On 31 minutes, Chelsea had a couple of opportunities, a double save from Fraser Forster. I know when it was announced that Vicario's out injured for a couple of months, everyone was worried about the fact that we've got Fraser Forster, but he's done extremely well in the games that he's played so far. A double save in the 31st minute from Neto and Palmer. How impressed have you been with Fraser Forster so far?
Yeah, just really, really surprised, pleasantly surprised. His reflexes seem to be really great. I mean, he's had a couple of those just last second getting his left arm out to save some of these shots. It happened today. It happened in the Bournemouth game. I think he's been really strong back there on the ball.
It's happened again. Craig.
We're all freezing tonight.
Craig, do you want to take that one about Fraser Forster? Because I must admit, I've been very impressed with him so far.
Yeah, I have. And the defence don't seem to panic when he's behind them as well. I think that he's just slotted in really well. Really impressed with him, as I said before, actually. Terry said there, the reflexes, it was really close in one of the shots in the second half, I think it was. And just tipped it around the post. Very, very capable. He's just looked quite capable, really. He hasn't looked like he's been flapping at anything. He hasn't been letting us down. So yeah, I've got no problems with Fraser Forster being in goal. He seems to be an able deputy for Vicario at the moment, and you have to say his presence from corners. The players aren't trying to get round him and bully him like perhaps they do with Vicario. So I've noticed that, they're thinking, sod this, I ain't going near him because I know I'm not going to win that battle. Yeah. You can see it. You can see it. Just while I'm on set pieces, I hate to mention that mob down the road. I know we touched on it earlier, but their set pieces from corners are phenomenal. Rice and Saka, the balls they put in, the delivery is unbelievable. I can only think defenders must be panicking because they're all brilliant, all in the right spot, causing absolute chaos. And like you said, Chris, how you score a goal, I couldn't give a toss if that ball goes in the back of the net. Set pieces are one thing you can actually work on because the ball's still, the ball is not moving. So that's something that I think we should be working on. I know we haven't got the tallest team, but it just goes to show if you can get 10 goals a season from set pieces, that's going to send you on the way.
Hold on, is that really a thing that people are criticising how you score goals now?
I think people do, though. People have been, because I saw people saying, "Oh yeah, Arsenal only scoring their goals from set pieces." So what? When we had Gianni Vio, we scored a lot of goals from set pieces. All right, there was other elements of our game that weren't so good, but it's part of football. Alan Shearer always said that. Gary Lineker said that. It's part of football. Yeah. Set pieces are part of the game. So why not be good at them?
Hey, Craig. Not only are the deliveries from Rice and Saka just beautiful but it seems like everyone on Arsenal's team is moving. Like none of them are near the goal. Then it's just chaos. Once the ball is kicked, all 10 of them seem to be moving in different directions, and only they seem to know where the ball is going to go. So to get that open man, if you look at that compared to just the one corner that we had today, where we had a really good chance, They're all just standing there. It was a really nice cross to Papisar, and that was close to going in. But he was standing there. He just jumped up. There was no movement. There was no everyone was just standing there waiting for a perfect cross to come in. It's just that can't be that hard to work on. Like it's half an hour.
It's not. Well, honestly,
every day in practice just to work on a couple of plays there.
When I played, even at park level, it's like movement. Always be moving at a corner because you're easy to mark when you're standing still. But you're right, Terry. A lot of our players just stand still, and that's fine if you're 7 foot tall or Peter Crouch. You can stand there because nobody can jump above you. But our players aren't.
Craig, let's stay with you because in the 34th minute, I think this is the incident Terry was on about. Son corner, Sarr heading against the bar. At this point, it was end-to-end stuff. I'll tell you what, Ange Postecoglou has said about, entertaining football. All of our games have been entertaining football. It might not be entertaining the Spurs fans, but it's certainly entertaining the neutral fans right now. A minute later, Son to Solanke, who took a tame shot at the goalkeeper. That was another glorious chance, in my opinion. 3 minutes later, Jackson, chance, shot wide. On 41 minutes, Chelsea with another opportunity. Jackson threw on goal and a great block and really did put him off from Dragushin. How impressed have you been with Dragushin so far this season, Craig, when we've had the likes of Romero and Van der Ven out?
I think he's done okay. I think he looks stronger on the right side of the defence than the left. To be honest, I don't think he looks as good when he's on the left. But that block you're talking about, he's not the quickest, but he come steaming across and made quite a pivotal actually block on that shot because that was goal bound. So that was really good. But it was a little bit last ditch, wasn't it? So again, we're surrendering a lot of possession to Chelsea at that point. And I think we did well to actually get into the break with the scoreline as it was, to be fair, because, like you say, it was end-to-end at that point, a bit like a basketball game. And we did have chances. If we'd gone to 3-1 up, 4-1 up, it would have been a completely different game. But, again, we weren't clinical in those situations. So you kind of pay the price, don't you?
Yeah, I think we can all agree that it was never going to be a 0-0 game. Just before the halftime break, Cucurella had a chance over the bar. We went in at 2-1. Rich, how were you feeling at that point at 2-1? Because surely any of us are thinking that first 10, 15 minutes of that second half is absolutely vital. Just don't concede.
It's obviously key, isn't it? It's key. Any first half or second half. It's about kind of if you goal up, 2 goals up, then it's about kind of setting the tone for the second half. And obviously the Chelsea players were fired up. They understood that the tide had definitely changed towards the end of the half. I think we were just hanging on, like Craig was saying, to get into half-time break to really kind of breathe, take that breath, and then hopefully come out composed, ready to be as solid as possible, and then hopefully break. But it just seemed that, though, when we came back, it was... I'm not sure that the players had really switched on that we were already leading. I just think there was a little bit of naivety around the play. And again, having another player drop into midfield, that would have maybe kind of created less gaps in that midfield for Chelsea to exploit, because they definitely were in those first 10 minutes. And for me as a fan, I'm like going, come on guys, look. Yes, the pundits are saying we expect Chelsea to come back now. Obviously, the ball's in Chelsea's court. They're going to go for it. But I'm thinking that Angie's going to say, look, Chelsea, I expect them to come after you now. Let's kind of be strong in the press. Let's try and get that ball back, but also use that ball in some good areas and not take any risks.
Richard, Terry asked a great question to Sean Wallace earlier about the refereeing and officiating today. Should there have been any red cards in the game? Caicedo,
that was a straight red for me. That was a straight red.
What about the Kulusevski one as well?
No, I don't think so. But that's not just because I'm a Spurs fan. I think just different. Even the Caicedo one, the challenge before should have been a yellow card, and then the one that he went he was literally trying to kind of. The ball wasn't even part of his intention. It was like the ball had gone, and he was like, "That was." I don't understand how the referee did not even go back to the monitor for that, because for me that was a straight red you'll find this season for me. Like
they said it wasn't excessive force, Rich, but it was excessive force.
Wasn't controlled at all. Wasn't controlled. That was definitely excessive force.
Could have broke his leg. It would have broke his leg if it had been side on. Lucky shin pad.
Planted, for sure.
Yeah.
That was that for me. I think also. I think because of that, the referee was like, I would have said he would have been informed he's made a wrong decision there after the incident, and whatever went on with the Spurs players and Kulusevski incident, whatever, that would have been negated. But for me, the Caicedo incident would have changed the dynamic of the game. So those little incidents really do have because you look at obviously how that person had an impact on the game after that point, which he clearly did. But how many times has this happened to us that a player that should have got a red card has then either scored or had an impact on the result moving forwards? It's happened time and time again.
Rich, let's stay with you. In the 48th minute, Fraser Forster, another good save from him. 2 minutes later, Dejan Kulusevski with a good chance, crossed it straight to the goalkeeper, which was a little bit disappointing. A minute later, Chelsea cross into the box, which was cleared. In the 52nd minute, Chelsea with a shot just wide. A minute later, Tottenham made a sub. Timo Werner on.
Here, I tell you, I was starting to worry. Like they're just piling on the pressure. And like you were saying before, Fraser Forster, I think he's done as much as he can for the team. He's been a big presence. Obviously, big shoes to fill, but I think he's a different kind of keeper than Vicario, but also showed his worth to the team. At that point, where you got up to then, I was pooing my pants. I knew they were going to score. It was inevitable at that point. And that's where that strong leadership steps in.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, in the 53rd minute, Ange made a sub. Johnson coming off, as Craig said, he came off unwell. Timo Werner came on. Now, you've been very critical about Timo Werner. What did you make of his performance today? What have you made of his performances recently in a Spurs shirt?
What do I expect from a Spurs player that plays in those attacking positions? That's probably the better question. And he just doesn't fit the mould what I'm looking for. I think it's when fans say that he's done all right, or that's their opinion. That's fine. I accept that. But for me, as a Spurs fan, what I'm expecting, what's come before him in the past in those positions, I want more. His potential is he can score goals. He gives more, but why is he not doing it in a Spurs shirt? Yes, lots of assists, and him and Johnson have got that kind of, I don't know, telepathy when he goes down the wing and he kind of pulls it back to Johnson, the back post. Teams have figured that out a lot of the times, or had. I think for me, he just doesn't do enough. I think is he going to come on and have an impact? Not scoring goals for sure, maybe with an assist. He does enough in some games, but not enough for me.
Terry, let's come to you. On 57 minutes, Chelsea had a shot on goal from 20 yards, Forster making another save. In the same minute, Chelsea crossed, cleared by Tottenham. And then in the 59th minute, of course, Basuma made that challenge. Cole Palmer scoring for Chelsea from the penalty spot, making it 2-2. Palmer, he just does not miss penalties, does he?
No, I mean, even if Forster had guessed right on that one, I mean, I think that was in the side netting. It was beautiful. But we have to talk about Basuma here. I mean, I thought he was our poorest player even before that yellow card there. It's so rash. I don't know what he was thinking. Caicedo he wasn't in danger of scoring, right? I mean, he was in the box. But there was no need to come in that hard on him. And that's the frustration with Basuma. I mean, we see games where he's really strong at the back. He's so composed on the ball that he's really strong on the ball. He'll bring the ball up. And then there's other games where he's consistently losing the pass, losing the ball, and then coming in with these rash challenges. I thought he should have actually come out after that yellow card because I was afraid that he was going to get another yellow card. given that he was going to try to do something to make up for that penalty. I mean, luckily he didn't do that. But it's just a really, really disappointing performance from Basuma, and I don't think he's someone that we can rely on going forward. Which just goes back to that number six point. And then Chris, can I just make one more point about you're talking about the players being shattered there? I thought so last week, Jack Pittbrook in the New York Times, he had a really good article about Ange Ball really being the fundamentals of Ange Ball really being physical, right? Because both running and physicality. Like the reality is, we only have a squad of about 14 or 15 players at this point. Like we can't afford to be physical. Like that's why players are so shattered. It's like if he's going to refuse to play Spence or even Reguilon just to give some players a break, we're going to see them getting tired really quickly. We're going to have these games where they look really energetic one half and just completely lose it in the second half, where they're really on it one game or really off it the second.
But that's a big problem, Terry. The manager should be demanding more in a transfer window. If you want to play a certain way, you've got to have a certain squad and you've got to have certain players. So, if you want to play that certain way, there are needs and requirements, and that transfer window should have been much better.
Yeah, you know what? I think I was in the minority last summer where I thought I was pretty happy with our transfer window. I know you weren't, Chris, and I know a lot of others weren't. You were asking for a lot more.
I think it's about realism. I think it's about being realistic, because we saw last season exactly what's happening this season. We've seen it again happen again, and I felt like a couple of injuries to key players, exactly what's happened. We could be in shit street again, and that's exactly where we are.
Yeah. It's I guess I was naively optimistic that players like Gray and Bergwall would be a little bit more ready. I guess we didn't see people like Odegaard going out. We didn't see Richarlison being hurt for the 17th time. But in retrospect, you guys were right. We definitely needed more ready-made players. But both Gray and Bergwall, I think just you can see the promise in them. They're just not ready at this level. The last few games, when I've seen them putting their jerseys on to come into the game, it's just been a sinking feeling that there's no way we're going to come back with this squad that's here. I thought we started to address that with Dragusin last year. I mean, that was obviously the biggest need. I think we need at least another center back, another goalie up front. Of course, the help that we need there. Midfield, again, my number one would be a center defensive midfielder, one who's really, really consistent, someone who has – I think if we were to splurge on one world-class player, I think it should be there. Yeah, you guys are right. The squad depth is really killing us at this point.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's talk about Cole Palmer's penalty, because he just doesn't miss penalties, does he? He's an absolute quality player. I know we've spoken, Terry's spoken about Basuma's challenge, but the penalty, great penalty.
Yeah, it was. You knew he was going to score. He's so clinical from the spot. You just knew it, and then I know we're not there yet, but the second one as well, you just knew he was going to put that away. So
yeah.
Sorry, Rich, did you?
Yeah, I think when somebody's scoring them that regularly, you need to do something different to try and put them off the game. And I think teams don't do that enough to Cole Palmer. It's kind of, they let him put it on the spot, the keeper doesn't engage, and he scores. Now, whatever dark arts, whatever you think about, you need to do something different. Yep. Right? You need to make him miss. You can make players miss. You look at Mo Salah. Mo Salah's not the most. He's a fantastic striker, and he's missed some key penalties. I think by the keepers engaging, kicking the ball away, kind of like talking. It's like, I've studied you, kind of talking. You see, he's not the brightest tool in the box, and I think that helps him. I think into those situations, but they need to do something to put him off what he does. And the second, I didn't like how he took the second penalty. I think with somebody like him, I think he's going to look to do that because of his mentality, I think. And like I say, because he's not the smartest tool in the box. But I think as teams are just too soft in that moment. That's a key moment. Kind of somebody needs to take a card, but somebody come on the box and move the ball. Somebody needs to do something different. That pressure, again, the crowd create a moment that he's going to have to step up and do something different, because at the moment 11 out of 11, because he's not been pressurized. You look at all those moments, there's sometimes just puts it down, he does what he wants to do, and you need to change that.
Rich, have you ever used any dark arts in your running career? Because I know I know in the last couple of days someone stole your water bottles.
Yeah, some bastard stole my water bottles. Yeah, the fuckers. Yeah, if you're in Nottingham, you stole my water bottles, I'd like them back. Oh, actually, I'll give you some more if you want. Yeah, I was out running yesterday, and I was doing my session, and so the thing was, they took my water bottles, and it was windy, obviously because of the storm, and I was going to finish my session after 2 runs, but because they nicked my water bottles, I finished my session. I actually ran really well, so that was that actually spurred me on to do what I did in my session. And I think again, that's why you need to use the moment to your advantage. And people in the squad need to, like Roy Keane used to do it all the time. Martin Keown, like you've got to take one for the team sometimes. You know what I mean? And make them do something that they're not used to doing. Then that is key under those moments.
Rich, let's stay with you, because in the 68th minute, Heung-min Son had a glorious chance. Timo Werner was in the middle, and the best choice here would have been to square it to Timo Werner for a tap-in. Heung-min Son's shot. What did you make of that incident?
Well, maybe it was Timo Werner. That's why it might not have been a tap-in. I'm not being funny. But how many times has the ball gone to Timo Werner and the whole crowd gone, oh, many. Now, are you telling me that you put your house on him scoring if he'd have crossed it into him?
Any professional footballer is always told you always pass to the player in the best position, regardless of who they are.
I'm asking you a question.
Regardless of who they are, Rich, you've got to pass to the best player.
Would you put your house on Timo Werner scoring that?
Well, you know I wouldn't.
But no, it was the wrong decision. But then again, like, players are obviously in the moment, they make those decisions. And I think if Sonny would have been putting those other opportunities in the top corner or in the bottom corner for fun, you'd have put your money on Sonny scoring. But he should have took that. That was the wrong option, clearly. Now, I think if you look at the moment, he did have his head down, and his peripheral vision wasn't that he was open. But that was obviously just a decision that he should have made. He should have crossed the ball clearly, and Werner would have had that opportunity to put that away, which would have been a simple opportunity as well.
In the 72nd minute, Tottenham free kick on the right-hand side, crossed in. Mickey van der Ven headed just wide. And then a minute later, Chelsea took the lead 3-2 through Fernandes. Terry, do you want to talk us through this goal? Chelsea going 3-2 up.
I'll be honest with you. I don't remember this. Oh, this is the one where Palmer kind of danced through half the team, and then it deflected off. It looks like, I think it was deflected off of Van de Ven there. And then I don't know if it was quite a volley. It might have been, but it was a really, really nice hit by Fernandes. I think most of the blame here really has to go to Udogie, who let Palmer kind of dance through and get into the box there. This kind of goes back to that aggression that we were talking about earlier in the show, and in that we've got to close them down here. Like we can't give them the space to make these types of runs, to make these types of passes, even though it was a deflected pass. So there was still a lot of luck and skill that was involved in this for Chelsea, but still not a goal that we should be giving up.
Craig, let's come to you. On 77 minutes, Chelsea with another counter-attack. Their shot was blocked. On 79 minutes, Ange Postecoglou made a treble sub. Kulusevski, Basuma, Van de Ven all coming off. Maddison, Bergvall and Gray coming on. What do you make of that treble sub? Because Maddison, of course, captained Spurs on Thursday in the 1-0 defeat at Bournemouth. Will he be disappointed? I know Ange Postecoglou has got to rotate the team and the squad, will Maddison be disappointed not starting a big game against Chelsea today?
He will be, but he's got to put in the performances that warrant his inclusion in the team. It's the bottom line. And his performance against Bournemouth on Thursday just wasn't good enough from what we expect of him. So he's got to expect to be dropped. Probably by the time he come on, he couldn't really do much to change the game, is what I'd say. And I think Haynes does make some too late substitutions. But look, Maddison, that performance against Manchester City, that's the Maddison we want. And he hasn't done it since. So we can't have one of your allegedly best players and one of your best playmakers in the team. So hit and miss and, hot and cold.
I think for
so
me,
he's got really
a good opportunity for Maddison to come on.
It would, give him a bit longer. And he's obviously a confidence player. And you would hope after that performance at City that would have given him the confidence to kick on and say, because his answer to Sky, he said, I think I'm a better player. Spurs are a better team with me in it. So he's not short on confidence, James Maddison, but he's not doing it on the pitch, unfortunately.
Yeah. Craig, what did you make of the penalty in the 84th minute? Of course, the challenge, and you've already said Cole Palmer with another fantastic finish. Probably taking the absolute piss, really.
Yeah, it was funny. They asked him on Sky, but when did he decide to do it? And he said basically at the moment he kicked the balls, or more or less. I think I'm paraphrasing, but it was a definite penalty. No complaints there. I don't know what Sarr was doing. Really, I really don't know what he was doing. But I love, I was a striker. I just love to see that cheekiness and that the audacity almost to do that. I know Chelsea had probably won the game by then, but those Panenka penalties, I never had the balls to do that. You've got to have some balls to do that. You really have. But it just makes the goalkeeper look stupid. What a cracking player Cole Palmer is. I really do wish we'd gone in for him because I loved him when he was at City. And that's the one thing somebody said in the chat, thanks Poch for buying in somebody who's one of the best players in the Premier League, and he's tormented us today. Yeah,
fantastic talent. Of course, the referee gave 7 minutes added time. Son getting Tottenham's third goal, making it 4-3 in the 97th minute. Craig, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, it was a good Spurs goal. Obviously, I think it was a bit too late by then. It's more like a consolation, isn't it? Probably, you could say we didn't even warrant the scoreline being that close in the end. But it was good. Yeah, but good assist from Maddison, good jinking run, and deliberately picked out Son. It wasn't just a hopeful ball across the box. That's probably one that's come straight from the training ground. But as I say, more of a consolation by that point.
Rich, let's come to you. Last question for you all. Of course, it's another very busy week, another tough week coming up. Rangers on Thursday in the Europa League, Southampton away in the Premier League on Sunday. Southampton, bottom of the Premier League. Is this Dr. Tottenham will see you now, or will Tottenham turn them over?
Oh, God.
Jeez.
Well, I didn't expect that reply.
Listen. I just think something needs to change, doesn't it? Something needs to change result-wise. I think the two games that you'd want to come, would it be one against Rangers and Southampton? I think obviously we thought we'd turned Ipswich over at home and we didn't. I think it's that I'm always looking for consistency with Spurs, and we're just inconsistent, and you just don't know what Spurs you're gonna get, and whether that's in the cup rounds or in the league, and that's a real frustration. But also you're trying to play the same kind of football with different players and different mentalities of players, people that are frustrated not getting their team in the league or playing in the cup and then get frustrated. I think that we'll do okay against Rangers and Southampton, and I'd hope that we win both the games. And I'd like to think that Solanke will have two good games and get some goals under his belt, and then show obviously what he actually did in that first half against Chelsea and dominate the centre backs. I just want us to, when we go ahead, that actually kind of, that's it. Let's close games out. Let's kind of utilise the speed we've got on the wings. But I think that midfield, we just looked so open. Hopefully, Ange addresses that. Maybe just kind of has some chats with the players around some of the mistakes they made in play, out of play, and also like we can't be diving in the box. I think have we given the most penalties away in the Premier League? I think we might have, and that's obviously that's a real frustration if that's the case, because in the box year on year, especially with some of our left and right backs that we've had, have been giving away like penalties. So for the midfielders to do it today, really disappointing. I think we'll be all right the next week. We need obviously our confidence to be built in the team, but also the team needs to show that fight that Sonny's been talking about, that everybody does actually care.
Yeah, Harry writes in the comments here, I think people need to realise that how the Rangers atmosphere will help them, especially against Ange Postecoglou. I was up in Rangers for a friendly against Spurs a couple of pre-seasons ago, and the atmosphere was pretty good. Even when the Spurs bus turned up, they were booing Tottenham going in. It was pretty dicey, actually. So that's going to be a tough game, a tough atmosphere on Thursday evening. There's no easy games in any competition, especially the Europa League away from home. And, you know, Spurs are sitting 9th in the Europa League table at the moment. So that's a must win. Terry, how are you feeling ahead of these two games?
Personally, I'd like to see us prioritize the Rangers game. I still think the Cups are our best chance at glory here. I'd like to see us prioritize Rangers and Manchester United over Southampton. Of course I'd like to see us win all three, but I'd rather take a Rangers win and a Manchester United win and a Southampton loss than the others. Knowing this team, I don't think anybody will be shocked if Southampton wins against us. I feel like that's an opportunity for us to rest some of the players, just given the crazy schedule right now. I don't know if that's going to happen. I know how much priority is put on the Premier League, but we have to be realistic with ourselves. I think our record now is 6 wins and 7 defeats, right? I mean, we're a mid-table team. We really are. We're playing like a mid-table team. We deserve to be a mid-table team. Our real chance of glory is in the Cups, and I think out of all of them, I think we really, really do still have a good chance with Europa League.
Yeah,
because the teams there, they haven't figured us out like the Premier League teams have, right? At least that's the thread of hope that I'm holding on to here. So I would really like to see us prioritize the Thursday games this week.
I also just want to say on this podcast that I think that a lot of people forget what situation and what a mess we were in when Postecoglou did arrive. And I feel like there's a lot of fans that have this attitude that we were winning trophy after trophy before Ange Postecoglou came in. It's nearly 17 years since we last won a trophy. Ange Postecoglou has given absolutely everything for this team, this squad, this football club at the moment. And I just believe that we ought to give him time. I know a lot of people are going to criticise me for saying that. No matter what you do, whether you are behind Ange or whether you're not, a lot of people are criticising others at the moment. But that is what I believe, and I've always, stuck to my beliefs on this podcast. Craig, lastly, with you, Rangers, Southampton, how do you see it going?
Yeah, same as the other guys. I think they're both games that are definitely winnable, even though we're up and down. I think even though Rangers is going to be tough, it's going to be a tough atmosphere up there. I think we can win that game. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs win against Rangers. But like Terry says, I think that's an important one. I think we've got chances in the Cups, 100%. And the Southampton, like you say, are bottom, the Dr. Tottenham element. But look, we should be beating Southampton. So I'm actually going to go 2-0 Spurs win at Southampton as well. I think we're going to have a good week and get back on track. But like you, I think we've got to stick with Ange Postecoglou. I've said it for months, and I'll keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. I can't be going for another rebuild. If you're going to do a rebuild, you need to see it through, regardless of what's going on, how we're playing, through thick and thin. We need to back the players, and hope that he can turn this around. I think in time he will, because if he does bring us a trophy, everybody's going to be happy, aren't they?
Absolutely. Craig, thank you so much for coming back. You're always here through the good times, the tough times. So thank you so much for all of your input. Where can people find you on social media, Craig?
At Dearman9 on it. So if you want to give me a follow, I think it's Craig Dearman9 on Instagram. If you want to follow me, that would be lovely. But yeah, through thick and thin, we carry on. We carry on. Thursday's another game and another day. So always a pleasure to come on.
Well, Craig was messaging me during the podcast saying, hurry up and finish because I've got my kebab coming. So, Craig, thank you so much.
See ya.
Terry, or you go, Craig. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Terry.
See you later, everyone.
Where can people find you on social media, Terry?
So I've made the migration over to the Blue Sky, which has been quite pleasant. So I gave it at TKimWM at the whatever the Blue Sky address is there. Thank you again for having me on, Chris. It's still have yet to be on after a win. It's like I'm looking forward to that one whenever that comes, if that ever comes. It's Richard, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for the chat, guys.
Thank you so much, Terry. And Richard, before you leave us, tell us about this groundbreaking, inclusive sports documentary series, Dare to Defy. I'll tell you what, I watched all 3 episodes last night on Amazon Prime. Absolutely fantastic. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. So if you want to give the summary briefly of what people can expect from this documentary, I tell you, it was absolutely superb.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic opportunity to really look at some of the stereotypes in sport. And we investigated all kind of issues within sport. The reason why sport isn't fully inclusive for everybody. So for myself, having a disability, not having disability representation across sport, Adele being from the LGBTQ plus community, homophobia on the terraces. And it was a great opportunity to see how we could have some social change, and we developed a race called Race to the Future at the Olympic Park, where I won my Paralympic gold medal in 2012, and we had 700 people there, and we tried to develop a race that hopefully other events, whether it's in running or other sporting events, that could actually take heed from kind of our findings. And I did some racing in Formula E. We looked at the equestrian sport. Like I say, Adele went to Man City and kind of dived into some of their issues and some of their real strengths. And then we came together and put this massive event on. So it was fantastic. Hopefully we get season 2. But yeah, it's on Prime Video. It's out now, 3 episodes, half an hour each. Check it out and you'll see a different side to myself and Adele and how we really want to make a positive impact on sport through participation, but also hopefully educating the wider audience around inclusivity and how people need to kind of have ownership of that. And even myself, I felt over the 8 months it took to get everything together, it gave me a great opportunity to understand there's still so many problems and challenges, especially in some of the big sports, around how they're not still inclusive or have those inclusive elements, but people aren't really taking responsibility for what they say or how they act. And I think we all have a responsibility to be more inclusive. So definitely go and check that out. It's something I'm very proud of. And yeah, thanks for your support, Chris.
You should be very proud, Rich. And I'll tell you what, I'm very proud to call you my friend because that was a really, really fantastic series. And I would recommend it to anyone. So, and I feel like we need to speak about this more in depth. So perhaps we'll do a one-to-one podcast sometime soon about this. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, thank you to Craig. Thank you, Terry. Richard, thank you so much for all of your time. I know it's always difficult talking about a defeat. Hopefully Spurs can get back to winning ways on Thursday evening. And of course, we'll see you on Thursday after the Rangers game in the Europa League. Enjoy your week, everyone, and come on, you Spurs.